In 1985, Levi Strauss & Company found itself up against the greatest marketing challenge in its 130-year history. The company that literally invented jeans back in the gold rush days, whose double arcduet pattern was America's first apparel trademark, and whose 501 jeans had become an icon of freedom, adventure, and independence, discovered that its bread-and-butter customer, the American male teenager, was growing up and out of the jeans market.
If you look back to the photograph of Woodstock in Yasgur's farm in 1969, those kids, those baby boomers, the children who were born between 1946 and 1964, who were wearing any clothes at all, were wearing Levi's jeans. With the adoption of Levi's jeans by this massive group of baby boom kids, 80 million kids, really began the phenomenal rise of Levi Strauss & Company as an international, global colossus in the apparel business. That's the good news. The bad news is that as these kids grew, as they grew older, their propensity, their proclivity, their need for jeans, 6, 7, 8 pairs of jeans a year, began to decline. And we started to see this in the early 1980s as the baby boomers began to enter their 20s and we began to see the aging of this baby boomer as a major challenge for Levi Strauss & Company and for the Levi's brand. So we set ourselves out to answer the big question, how to keep the baby boom generation in a Levi's brand when they weren't wearing so many pairs of Levi's jeans. And the answer was Dockers.
Creating a new brand from scratch was a formidable challenge. Steve Goldstein was there from the start.
How do you get these kids out of blue jeans and into Dockers product? The first thing marketers do is to position the product, to envision and to position a product. And we asked ourselves, what equity could we bring from the Levi's brand to the Dockers brand that would make this transition quite easy? And what we did was to develop a product that in many ways was similar, akin to, in the same family of the jeans. It was 100% cotton. It was a very comfortable product. It was an unpretentious product. It didn't have a lot of colors. There were basically muted colors in tan and green and in brown and in black and in navy, but mostly in the traditional tan color. The quality of the product was quite high, and the durability of the product was quite good, all of which linked back to the essential values that this jeans generation had associated with the Levi's brand, were associated with the Dockers brand. So in positioning Dockers, we put it in the family of Levi Strauss & Company, and it made it quite easy for a jeans-loving teenager to become a Dockers brand-loving young adult.
When Steve moved to the Levi's brand in 1992, Robert Henson assumed the marketing responsibilities for Dockers.
What he was able to do was, one, is to create this amazing emotional connection, kind of nailed the emotional underpinnings of what was appealing to baby boomers at the time the brand was launched. And when I joined, in fact, Steve and the research director at the time talked about having created this kind of fantasy world they called Dockers World, which was a place that men kind of associated with the brand where they could escape and relax and be their best selves, be really at ease with themselves.
The first commercials that Robert referenced, which we ran from 1986 to 1990, basically were a half a dozen guys sitting around talking about their lives. It had nothing to do with the product. The camera made love to the product, but the subject matter of the conversation was basically what's new, school friends, how's your life going, what was your first date about, and it was an intimate setting where guys could be guys in the absence of women. They could be honest with themselves, let their hair down. Those of them who still had hair could let their hair down. And the responses from the men in the audience went along like this. That's me. That's me all over. When we get together with the guys, that's what we talk about. I like those guys. I could be one of those guys.
But from a branding standpoint, it was important for the company to create Dockers as a separate and unique identity, which is really targeted to this slightly, the beginning of midlife stage, if you will.
We considered not using the Levi's brand at all. But what we realized was that it was sort of like trying to put a shuttle, a space shuttle up without any launch rockets. So if you consider the Dockers brand as a space capsule, is a better terminology. The space capsule, and the Levi's brand as a launch vehicle. For the first several years, and Robert can say when the launch vehicle dropped away, the Levi's brand launched the Dockers brand into orbit. And the reason it was so powerful a launch is what we had discussed earlier. The love that this baby boom generation had for the Levi's brand enabled us to get instant credibility.
When Dockers was launched, the dominant name in men's pants was Hager, with a market share of about 80%.
With Dockers, instead of assaulting the front door of this castle, we did something which the textbooks describe as flanking. Okay? We went over here and we started to build this little castle, just a little castle outside the gates of the Hager Castle. And we could just feel people in the Hager Castle kind of looking out over, saying, what are those guys doing over there? Don't worry about it. Those are jeans people. Forget it. They don't know what they're doing. And then it got a little bit bigger. And they said, that's nothing. It's only a $100 million business. So what we were doing was we basically, without announcing this, okay, these are principles here, without announcing this to the world, we're taking on Hager with this casual pant. We didn't do that. We just started building this little business over here, flanking Hager. We established a new category. We made up this category called casual pants.
The Dockers brand was a smash success, but it wasn't long before baby boomers, the original Dockers target market, began reaching their 40s, and Dockers found its own castle under assault.
Steve had done such a great job of positioning the brand to the baby boomer generation. As they began to age, they basically took the brand's affinity with them. And back in 1992 was the first time we started to hear consumers say, well, you know, Dockers is a good brand, but that's really my dad's brand. And these are 25 to 35-year-olds, the core target that Steve originally launched the brand to.
We have the challenge to continue to keep it relevant to a new wave of kids who are coming in. We call them the echo boomers. They're the children of the baby boomers. So as strong a link that we've been able to build with baby boomers with our brand, we have to build an equally strong link with the echo boomers. There's 72 million of them coming along now, and that's a big challenge.
We did such a great job of launching this brand and got it to $1 billion. But then we kind of got a little fat and happy, if you will. And in 1992, the Hager brand actually came back and innovated the casual pant category underneath us by launching this product wrinkle-free, which we at the time felt wasn't appropriate for the Dockers brand because it in fact flew in the face of a lot of the values that we had established from a product perspective. You know, we were 100% cotton, natural, easy to wear, even a little bit rumpled khakis, and Hager was introducing this product, no iron, hard crease, dressier casual pants. And we felt, you know, let's, like Steve talked about, we looked over the castle wall and we said, don't worry about that. But what we learned is they were able to steal about 6 share points in 2 years because they innovated this product because they were listening to consumers again. Consumers really didn't love ironing their khakis. And it's a very small example, and in fact, when we actually just basically decided to introduce wrinkle-free products into our line, we captured that share back plus about 3 or 4 points. So the brand actually never really suffered a great deal, but we did not innovate enough
don't try to go after somebody's main course if you can go off and create a new dish for someone outside.
One lesson that we've learned is you basically have to always be introducing the next wave. So if Dockers, the introduction of the brand was the first wave, the introduction of wrinkle-free by one of our competitors, in my opinion, was the second wave in this category. What we've focused on is the third wave, is where we've been trying to rebuild and extend the khakis category. We like to call this idea as kind of creating a khakis-based wardrobe, or a khakis continuum, from dress up that you'd wear to work to dress down that you'd wear on the street, because khakis do have a kind of a multiplicity of usage occasions. And in doing so, and focusing on khakis and the street credible style of khakis, the individual style of khakis, plus the fact that you can wear them to work and wear them out on the street or on the weekends when you really want to say something about yourself as an individual, focusing on that next wave has enabled us to capture the spirit and the attention of the next generation of khakis consumers. But it took success and a little bit of a competitive kick in the butt to get us moving again. And the one lesson I certainly have taken from that experience is you're never too good to kill your winners and to focus on your consumers' absolute need.
There are three things that are true of all great brands that we learned, we knew, and we reconfirmed along the way in building the Dockers brand, and building the Levi's brand for that matter. The first is that awareness of the brand is critical. Awareness through direct communications with the consumer, awareness through packaging, the way in which what we call packaging, the paper stuff that hangs on the product, building an awareness at retail, as Robert referenced, with building shops and environments in which the consumer will be at home when they're shopping for our products.
The Dockers brand was the first brand really to bring concept shops and sort of the positioning of the brand in a physical form to retail. So when you walked into retail to buy the brand, you actually walked into Dockers world, if you will. It was a lifestyle presentation.
Secondly is positive associations. Awareness is a necessary but insufficient communications vehicle. If the communication is negative, all the awareness in the world is only going to hurt you. So we have to be sure that what people hear and know and learn and feel about our brands is positive. The quality is right, the colors are right, the lifestyle in which it's shown is right. It's the brand for me.
Clearly there's a core product association for the brand that we don't want to leave behind. And then they tend to talk about the brand as being real or genuine, as being easy to wear or effortless, or a product that you can wear to be at ease in. And they also talk about Dockers khakis as having the ability to kind of create, it's a canvas really for them to paint their own individual style with. So we would say the essence of the brand is, you know, the definitive khakis that express kind of a genuine, effortless style, if you will. So it's important to have that soul, and then our challenge has been to make that soul relevant for today's customer.
So aware, positive. The third is differentiation. You have to be successful in a brand, you have to have your own niche. It's not enough for people to be aware of your brand and to feel good about it if it's just like everybody else's brand. So you have to strive to create some point or points of difference, physical points of difference, emotional points of difference between your brand and everybody else's brand. And those three things are really the tools, the guidelines for every person who is involved in establishing and building brands. And it can, in terms of differentiation, positioning is critical. Unless you can build a fence, a rather narrow, or a rather small fence around the position for your brand, you will not be successful in differentiating your brand from all others. If you try to be everything to everybody, you'll be nothing to no one.
Wear this brand because it enables the best of you to come out. Don't wear this brand because it paints you, it paints a certain picture on you for people to perceive, because what we want you to do is to be your best self And we're the brand that celebrates that and those values with you. And that's what makes this brand unique. I think the Levi's brand and the Dockers brand unique in the fashion world, because most fashion brands are about more trying to paint something on yourself rather than letting the spirit that you have, which is unique to you, come out.
Our brands are not about, I'm okay because I'm wearing this or that designer. That's not what we're about at all. Our brands are about, you understand yourself, you understand your own individuality, you understand that you are a unique and original person, and those characteristics that are yours resonate with the characteristics that are ours. Levi's brand is the original jean, the quintessential American jean, the iconic jean. But every individual who wears one is in himself or herself a wonderful, original person. And that's the linkage that we have with the Levi's brand. And also the same can be said of the Dockers brand.
Our communication strategy has evolved from the success of the original campaign, which is the one campaign beyond the current campaign, Nice Pants, that consumers still have top-of-mind recall about. What we've really focused on is basically articulating that not only can you feel real and genuine, not only can it be an effortless and easy experience for you, but it can also be a stylish brand. But it's not about fashion style, it's about individual style. It's about you wearing the product, not the product wearing you.
The single most valuable asset that Levi Strauss & Company has is its little coterie of brands, the Levi's brand, the Dockers brand, and the new Slates brand. And everything we do, and everyone here who is involved in any aspect of the company, constantly thinks about what we can do to build our brand.
And the challenge for you is to really understand how to retain what's at the core of your brand, but be relevant for today's customer and tomorrow's customer. It's not that difficult to think about. It's very difficult to do on an ongoing basis because it forces yourself to think, you have to force yourself to think outside of the box and to kill things that you're really happy with and comfortable with.
Brands are like trees in that respect. They have roots. They grow naturally. Sometimes you get a branch that wants to grow off in a wrong direction, and you have to be, even though that branch would provide wood, you have to be disciplined enough to prune that branch if it doesn't conform to the shape of the tree. It's a good sort of analogy to think about, that brands are living things that need to be fed, nurtured, pruned, and shaped continually in order to grow.
It's a calibration process. You've got to try new things in order to figure out how far you can push it.
You have to understand people, and you have to understand what's going on in the world in the broadest possible sense.
A brand that's been the greatest individual launch in modern American apparel history, world apparel history for that matter, still needs to kill its winners to innovate and not allow its competitors to flank it.